And picture this, folks. It is 2024. We've got the best cameras we've ever had, the best lenses, but you know, you really want to get that old school vintage look. Well, how are you going to do that? Simple. Just buy you old lenses. Now the trick is this lens isn't going to work with any camera. So there's companies out there that actually make these wonderful little camera adapters for lenses. The issue is sometimes you run into where you have one that fits your camera, but you can't find one to fit the exact lens you want. Now the way these adapter rings are supposed to work is this goes to your camera. This portion here will go to your camera, and then their lens will slide in and boom, lock into place. So now you can adapt your lens to whatever camera you've got. You got different lenses, different adapters. But sometimes you may have this oddball lens that you don't have an adapter that fits it. So in this case, we're modifying one. All right, so here we go. We're getting started, folks. We're getting the measurements in the computer. We're drawing up our block to make sure that we have our piece centered up where we need it to be when we actually go to machine it. So here we're getting all of our measurements, making sure we got everything like we need to. And by the way, this is my dad. You see here doing the measurements on this. This is really more of his project. Just get everything in the computer, draw up what we need to. And now we get it into the mill. And here comes the fun part. So excuse the little bit of coolant we had there. I decided to go ahead and turn it off. Now normally in aluminum, I would run coolant on there just because it gums up. Especially when it gets warm, it'll gum up and, well, it's a good way to break tools. So here we're roughing out this hole. We're opening up a big hole here basically for this piece to sit down in there. And this lens is actually going to sit down in the hole, and then we're going to come back and put some clamps on it, which you'll see here in just a bit, how we actually hold this thing down. So this thing's actually getting two pockets in it. You have the main pocket that we just did, and now we're going to go down to the center, not quite as wide on the diameter, and we're going to open that whole area up. Just because the way that lens is designed, or that adapter is designed, it has a double step in it. And this allows this thing to sit in there like it should. So here we go, milling this part out, give our clearance that we need. There's our finishing pass on that. Now we're going to put this bottom slot you see here, and if you would actually to see this lens adapter, it has a little piece on there that we're having a clearance for there. So now we're going to drill two holes, one in each side. These holes are strictly and only for the push out pins, or really they're bolts is all we're using. So as we put this piece in there, tap it in, we can pop it back out. We wanted this thing to fit kind of snug, that way we didn't have any movement in it. So we want to be able to tap it down in there, but we have to have a way to get it back up, and that's what you see us drilling these two holes here for. Now if you also notice, it's not drilling anything for just a little bit there, and that's simply because that's where that pocket is. Now I did turn the coolant on there just to try to keep from breaking the mill, or excuse me, the drill. All right, now here we are doing the two outer holes that are going to use our clamping mechanism. Our clamp mechanism, well, it's nothing more than two pieces of flat bar. But here we go, we're drilling this side, we're going to drill the other side, and we're going to tap both these holes so we can just take and bolt a bolt through it. Now, still not running coolant again. I kind of cut it back off, but really, I wanted to get some good shots for you to an extent where you didn't see the coolant, but I've turned it back on for the second hole and for the tapping. Really didn't want to break a tap in this thing, or you'll pretty much throw it away. So here we go with the tap on this one. And now we'll go drill the other hole and tap it as well. Same exact deal. tell you, this coolant, man, it'll get everywhere. One of the machines actually has through coolant. Holy moly, it'll just spray it all over the place if you ain't careful. Alright, so now we're getting ready to do our last tap, which this should be it for our actual fixture, and we will be done and ready to actually start doing some milling here in a minute. And there it is, folks. That is our fixture. So now we'll be able to put our piece in there, clamp it down, and we'll be ready to mill it. All right, there you go. You see we've got our piece in there. We've got our clamp pieces over, locked down. I said they're nothing more than pieces of flat bar. And now we're on to the actual part. So what we're gonna be doing here is taking a small cut on this inside perimeter lip here. We're going to take it down just a little bit because the way the shoulder is on the actual piece you see here is a little too thick, and it's not allowing the lens to go all the way in there. So here we're taking, I really can't remember how much we took off. I want to say it was about, 10, 15 thousandths maybe. But you'll see here in a second that we had to go a little bit more. All right, so I'm gonna stop it right there. Now, normally I would kind of skim through a lot of this and not put this in the video, but I thought for this one, hey, we're gonna put it in there. You're gonna see me and my dad kind of going over what we just did, trying to figure out what we've got to do on the next step. So this part is not exactly the easiest thing to measure, the way it's made. It's very hard to kind of get in there and actually seeing the two pieces that we're mating up because they're pretty unique in how they're designed. So we're trying to sneak up on it.
Oh. Bright ass light what we need. I know what we got back here.
This is flash.
What that damn light we had back there?
It's still back there. It's not hitting on the, well, let me see that black part, is it? No, it's not hitting on the black part yet.
Ah, the damn screw's holding it. It's just hitting that screw right there.
It's got to go the other way, though.
Okay.
Screw ain't hitting it that way. Does that thing, do they press in and then click, press back? Does it spring load? Is this other one still put together, right?
Yeah. It's got to go down deeper in there. Because this won't even, oh, there we go. Come on. It's got to go in there just a hair deeper.
Yeah, but I don't.
Because that damn thing is locking.
But what I don't understand is when it does go over to lick in, it's going to drop in. It's going to be loose.
Oh, that's what you're saying.
It's almost like that thing is. To me, it's almost like it's machined ass backwards. Let me see. Does it go that way or does it go? Wait a minute. It may go.
Can't go that way because that's what pushes that.
Does it?
So now you're above the block.
Well, I'm just trying to see because, I mean, what I don't understand is.
So you found something that I didn't pay attention to. I need to see something else here.
But I don't understand why them things are machined.
What you just found that I didn't know will fit in there.
Well, it falls. They fall out to where they
See,
fall
that
in
one
that
won't
shallow.
fall in there. Even if it did, it wouldn't fall in there.
What?
Let's see, or do we have it in the wrong place? Let me see here. If it goes there, it don't go that way. It's got to go right here.
It's kind of that way because the way the thing's done. But
Okay, so that will fall into that one.
they all gonna fall. That thing falls into that damn slot there.
But see there, it won't fall in there. See, it's not wide enough.
Oh yes, you're saying that. Well, that's what I'm saying. Is it supposed to fall in there or not?
I would say it does. Because if you get it lined up to there,
But
it's
see,
in them slots.
It would be loose then in there, right? Because there's nothing to really tighten the lens up to the.
Well, I think the depth is off by a couple thousandths. So, but even if the depth was not, that one fit in there, but this one will not fit in there.
Does that plate that go on the backside? Is there a plate that sandwiches these these in there?
Oh, there's another plate in there, yeah, but so that could be. It does have springs on it.
Well, where's it? That plate? Or?
That plate goes to this one, yeah. Oh, these right there pushes it in there. That's what it is.
So that's what's gonna put the tension on it.
That puts the tensions on it right there.
But we still gotta widen that other part out too, though.
Cause you got.
But but you gotta figure out. I think the thing is hitting. It'll be fine. It ain't work that. I ain't that big a deal. Oh, it's gonna get holding in place.
That's the tensioning part right there.
Let's see. Is that how it goes? There?
Mm-hmm.
It looks like to me it's bottoming out on this lip here.
That's what I'm talking about.
That one. I don't know if it's just that one or if it's bottoming out
Well,
on this one too.
Here's the thing, you need to figure out this gap here and then see that gap there. I don't know how the hell you're going to measure because you can't get in there with nothing hardly.
Well, let's see. Let's see, be very precise for what I see. That whole thing is, I think it's hitting this part right here, but I don't know how you guys bring that down much more, which ain't much, I guess.
You only got to go maybe a couple more thousandths. You see where it's hitting right there.
Let me try to, well, is that from, I don't think that's where it's hitting. That's where you ground it at, though. I wonder if I can work it in, though. The fun.
I might have to run it a couple times. If we don't, hold on a minute, let's put a little bit on.
Alright, so we finally figured out we need to take a little bit more off and try to get this thing in there because it just was not seating properly. So you'll see I'm going to speed this section up here But we're gonna go through, and it takes a few more tries, but we do eventually get it to where we need to, and you'll see here in just a little bit how this thing actually works. So you'll see right here, I'm actually using an indicator. I'm dialing in. I want to make sure I got this thing flat. I didn't show you in that earlier one, but basically I'm making sure that everything is flat and parallel to each other. So when I go and take this next skim cut off, I don't get it out of level. I guess would be don't know really the proper terminology. Uneven. But yeah, so we checked that, made sure it was good, and here we are. We're gonna take another skim coat. Or another skim cut. I'm thinking coat. Boy, need some help today. Now, we take this thing back out. We're going to check it again. And it takes a few tries to get this thing right. I will not lie. It took a few tries to get this thing down to the right depth.
That'll do it. This is one of those that the job necessarily isn't hard, but it's very, very time consuming. You know, there's a lot of little pieces that go into this thing. We had to pull this, this whole assembly apart. We know we had to cut this opening wider for this piece to slide into because it was too small. As you can tell, once we did that, then we noticed, well, we can't get it in there and turn it all the way so that the lock will work. So then we had to come back and actually go a hair bit deeper on this lip here that you see here, this inside lip, hair bit deeper on that, and then that allowed us for this thing to rotate. But then of course, and then we had the issue of once this thing rotated, it should drop down in these slots, and that's what actually locks it in. The problem is that the slots that were machined by this manufacturer of this piece, I'm not gonna say they wasn't right, because this is we're modifying something for another lens to make this one work. So we had to modify, and as you can see there, instead of trying to set up the machine, I literally used a small file, and this file actually only has cutting edges on the side, and I've gone in here and file these edges away. So now that when we put this actual lens in and we rotate it into place like it should and locks in, it locks in flush to the bottom exactly where it needs to be at. So now this lens should work. So all we've got to do now is we've actually got to put this thing back together. I did not take this apart. My dad did. He did it while I was on vacation. So I'm gonna let him put it back together, because apparently there's some really small little ball bearings and a few other little things. But essentially when this thing gets put back together, it's gonna look basically like this. And in this case, the lens will actually be able to go in rotate and lock into place like it should. And as you can see, which of course I got everything loose, but it locks in like it should. Everything's nice and secure, snug like it should be. And when you want to release it, take the lens out, voila. So just some of the things you have to do in this business. So
all right, here we go. The two pieces made up, slide together, and lock into place exactly like they should. This is one of those, like I said earlier, it is a much more time-consuming process, not a hard process. You know, there's some jobs that are really hard, but really don't take a lot of time, and there are times there are jobs that are really easy that take a ton of time, and that's the case with these things, because we actually had two of these to do. And I'm just showing you the one because the same process for the second one applied. And it's just you're taking your skim cut or figuring out your issue. I guess we'll say we'll start at the very front. You got to figure out the problem and then you start working towards that solution. And in this case, it was we needed to open that hole up. But it wasn't only just opening that hole up. You know, we had to open it up, get a little bit deeper, and then we've also had to go back and knock some corners off the pieces because we get the depth right, but then we had little edges on the piece there that was actually catching the lens, so we had to knock those edges off. Now we wanted to keep all the work done onto the actual adapter piece and not none of the lens piece, because you don't want to mess with the lens because you may eventually get that, you know, may want to use that lens on another camera and or another adapter if you can find one that fits another camera. Either which way, you want to keep that the same. We only wanted to modify the adapter. So luckily, this case was able to do it. Like I said, very time-consuming process, but in the end, got the job done. So that's it. We'll see you next time, folks.